Today on the Policy Triangle, we talk about how civil society is impacting the Green Deal. Is the Commission really listening? And how much is disinformation hurting? Thanks so much for joining us today. Let's kick off with our 60 seconds. Elina, you want to go first?
Thanks very much. I will be happy to. I think, reflecting on where we are with the Green Deal, it's important to take a look back. 5 years ago when we first launched the Green Deal, we were at the back of the European elections again, and there had been a massive movement towards, Fridays for Future, really enshrining a new type of political momentum into the mandate and the agenda of the European Commission. Since that, we've had a crisis after crisis, starting from COVID, going to the Russian war of aggression on Ukraine, and that has, of course, shaped the environment in which we find ourselves, more conflicted, more contested, more confrontational, and the geopolitical developments have added to that. So what we have tried to do is to respond to the worries of people, the concerns, and even, if you like, the green lash that we're experiencing, by making sure that the Green Deal objectives are very much integrated into an agenda of competitiveness, of security, and of strategic independence. That is something that we've heard the Europeans craving for, and what matters to Europeans matters for Europe.
Thank you so much, Elina. Raquel, 60 seconds.
My name is Raquel García, Hermida-van Walle, and in my professional experience before being elected to the European Parliament, I have worked a lot in and with civil society, and I do think that engagement of civil society organizations throughout Europe in the next policy cycle is going to be key to achieving success on all fronts, the Green Deal, competitiveness, but also obviously protecting our democracy and fundamental rights.
Thank you. Petros.
We are indeed facing a multitude of crises, economic, security, and environmental. All of them require cooperation. They are not the kind of challenges that we can face alone as independent sovereign states. And that's why the European Union is the ideal place to come together and work to achieve those results. The EU has taken the lead on environmental policy. We have put in place legislation that can help our economy and our society transform itself. Some of those changes are difficult for our fellow citizens, and that's why we need to involve them in those decisions that affect them most. And beyond elections, beyond the celebration of democracy that we experience every 4 or 5 years, we need to make sure that they have the opportunity to feed into the conversation with other means. Deliberative democracy can be a great supplement to representative democracy, and civil society is the vehicle to assist citizens to be part of those discussions.
Thank you. Let's start with the Green Deal. We've a lot we can cover with this, but essentially you mentioned the green lash, and Petros is talking about the celebration every 4 years and what happens in the middle. We want to have no European left behind in this, but the green policies don't have that sense to a lot of people. There's a mismatch between the objective and the day-to-day reality. What is the Commission doing, and what are the institutions in Europe doing to really try to bridge that gap now?
Well, I think if you look at the political guidelines and the mission letters that came right after the confirmation or before the confirmation of the college members, it is pretty clear that there is a renewed commitment to real engagement, getting closer to the ground, getting closer to the homes of the citizen. So if you look at the kind of generic part of the mission letter, which is basically the terms of reference for the commissioners, they are tasked with engaging with the citizen themselves, and not doing that only in Brussels, but actually going and visiting the member states, the countries, the projects, to hear not just about the successes, but also about the concerns.
But it does sound like we've done all this before. So what's going to be different this time? Well, how will local environmental agencies, just to pick one group, how will they feel the difference this time with this commission, this mandate?
Well, I think we do need to be honest and acknowledge that the Green Deal has been seen by some as removed from their realities. So there are a lot of people, a lot of sectors that are concerned. So in responding to those concerns, we have to also be genuine and discuss it with the broadest base of constituencies, because we don't only work with our kind of supporters. We really need to make sure that the Green Deal and its value added is understood and appreciated across the whole spectrum.
Petros, we're hearing today that the Commission is going to try and simplify procedures, deregulate, and yet others will say, well, they're only doing this for business. They're not doing this for the individual citizen or those who need the support most. When you're working with the NGOs, the groups on the ground, how do you see this voice being heard and communicated and responded to?
I think there is a genuine desire on behalf of civil society and citizens at large to see a fundamental reform of our economy, to make it more easy on the environment. And a lot of the discussions that we have been having in the context of a multi-annual, multinational project we have been part of gave us that feedback. The realization of the climate crisis that we're facing is evident in all the conversations we are having. The choices that we need to make are also clear. What people are frustrated with is perhaps the degree of consultation that has taken place ahead of the legislative process. And that's where also our project tried to bridge a little bit that gap. We engage research institutes and academics, but also private sector entities and, of course, civil society organizations in a pan-European discussion. And we run about 13 deliberative vehicles, including citizens panels, digital platforms, exactly to give the opportunity to citizens to offer feedback. And that feedback was constructive. It was really born out of genuine desire to see our environment protected and our economy thrive.
Well, let me ask you on that, is that if the desire is to see the environment protected, are you reaching people that are already convinced about the Green Deal, or are you reaching those who are skeptical, or both?
No, our ambition was very much to reach across the spectrum. Both those that are, of course, in favor of environmental policy, but also those that are skeptical. And then there is a big chunk of people right in the middle who haven't yet made their mind. And in the context of the project we're running, we put in place campaigns across Europe, reaching 75 million people with positive narratives around what is EU environmental policy and how it impacts their lives in a positive manner. And then lastly, how they can feed into the discussion. Of course, that is a drop in the ocean, but it's significant numbers. And if we do this consistently, if we have a dialogue with citizens, two-way dialogue, not just communication campaigns, but inviting them through these deliberative processes to engage, you will see how easy it is to win them over. Often people look for answers. And if they go to the well and they find it dry, they will drink mud. They will drink what the populists are telling them. We are there to fill that well of information with water so they can really feel part and they can find the answers they're looking for.
Raquel, is the well half full or half empty? In your experience, what works for citizens' initiatives, these kind of projects and consultation?
Well, first of all, I would like to circle back to what Petros said about filling the well with the right information. And I do think it's really important when it comes to the climate crisis to make sure that people make the connection between things that are very close to them, like what we have seen in Europe in recent years with floodings in Germany, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, the catastrophe in Valencia last year, the billions in losses, the losses of lives. That's something that people feel very real. So when opponents of climate policy say we have to put forward realistic policy, I say what is more real than the losses that people are facing? And if we don't succeed, and I look at myself also as an MEP, if we don't succeed in making a clear connection between this is climate change, this is the impact, we're not going to be able to bring people along.
You're an MEP, you worked in civil society, you have a background in journalism. You know that whenever there's a flood, people are not thinking climate change, they're thinking that this politician didn't do their job and it's their fault. And so into that gap comes populists with simple solutions. Yes. How do you change that narrative from the blame game and the I feel sorry for you to here's the real solution?
Yes, I think we have to be brave and to keep repeating that message. And I know it sounds like, if repeating at some point it's not going to come through, But I do believe that sticking to the facts is really important, especially in the fight against alternative truths. And the only way to be able to fight this is when we transform our entire economy, from energy to the way that we deal with agriculture, to the way that we deal with water, in a sustainable manner. And at the end of the day, it also has to do with competitiveness and with people's jobs, because people don't want dirty jobs from the past century. They want to be able to lead a healthy life also in their working life. Those are green jobs. Those are the jobs of the future. We can provide those in Europe, and we can be really a world leader, but we're running out of time. So the combination between the green agenda, but also the economic agenda, has to be very, very clear to all citizens.
We can do all the data points on what's going to happen in terms of the economy, but the discussion part, when civil society comes to the Commission, my view would be that civil society doesn't think it's heard well. It's part of the process and the window dressing for the Commission to show that it's been listening. That the consultation was done, there's a photo op and the Commission was there and everybody's shaking hands, and then it goes in a drawer somewhere. Is that what happens?
I don't believe so. I personally, I travel a lot to the member states, and I always make a point of engaging with the stakeholders. And I have made a point of ensuring that there are the constituencies, the green supporters, but also the farmers and the industry representatives.
They come to Brussels anyway to show
they
their
do,
approval.
but the people you meet with Brussels are often lobby organizations. To engage with the reality on the ground, you need to go on the ground. I also think that, the tractors, that was a manifestation of many different things. It was frustration, but it was also a culmination of very, very effective disinformation campaign and political opportunism that was formulated in a way that aligned well with the concerns of the agriculture sector. So some of the concerns were legitimate, but not all of them were related with the Green Deal. So Green Deal became somehow a very divisive topic, and that has been used by populists. And I think as policymakers, we cannot be too dogmatic or married to language that doesn't resonate. We really need to make sure that we deliver on the objectives. Because I completely agree. What we've seen happening in terms of climate change in the last year only is nothing short of devastatingly dramatic. And I think in that sense, we increasingly need to build resilience of the economy, because also that resilience of our economy, our preparedness to deal with the physical impacts of climate change, is a competitiveness issue.
Petros, the problem here is coming at you from different fronts. So you have populists on one side, you have weakened political will in the center, you have agitation on the left as well. When you look at the data, does the data tell you you should stick to your guns and stay with the policy, or is the listening exercise on a more visual basis? For example, the farmers come to Brussels. The narrative is all of the newspapers, and so therefore the reaction is we have to give them something to make them go away, or should they stick with the data?
I think the data and the reality before us is clear. As has already been said, we are experiencing a collapse of our climate and massive destruction of our environment all around the world. The question is, how do we respond, and how are we able to mobilize our fellow citizens? And all the points made here are very good indeed. I should say that the EU institutions, I work for an organization that is active across Europe. We engage with policymakers at the national level in most countries of the European Union and beyond. And the EU institutions are the most open in engaging with civil society, because I think there is a realization that civil society is a good faith partner, is there to provide expertise and knowledge, is there to enrich our democracy. There is a lot of debate at the moment about the role of civil society. But I think we need to remind ourselves that in a pluralistic democracy, we need input from all stakeholders, whether it's farmers, private sector, organized civil society, and ordinary citizens. That's what makes our democracy what it is, the openness it offers and the engagement it provides.
Okay, let's finish a little bit on disinformation. The communication of these messages, even if you're winning on actual action and deliverables for the European Union, if you don't get the communication right or it's saturated with disinformation, you lose.
I could not agree with you more. It is true that we are dealing with a much more complex communication network, and now with the social media platforms becoming increasingly unhinged and uncontrolled as a result of political developments, it is a concern. But I don't think we are necessarily equipped to win in that game. I'll go back to the metaphor about the well. We need to pre-boot and pre-bunk this type of information by availing the right type of information in an accessible format and playing the game on the turf that we know we're good at. Because people need to feel in the times of uncertainty that they are given back agency, that they have been empowered, not defeated by the social media.
If we have bad agents like Musk and Parliament, is it going to roll over with the DSA and just kind of hope this all goes away in 4 years?
For sure not. For the viewers who followed the debate on the DSA last week in Strasbourg, I think Parliament is quite united in wanting to enforce our legislation, because this is what it is about. We have the Digital Services Act, we have own legislation. If you want to play in Europe, you play by our rules, otherwise you're out. And I think that the worst thing that the European Union can do at this moment, and this is also my message to the Commission, is to play the digital appeasement card.
Petros, digital appeasement, would this play well with civil society?
No, certainly not. This is a battle of ideas and values, and we need to make sure that we stick to our own. Indeed, the battle for the hearts and the minds of our citizens is won on many levels. We need to infuse the discussion with positive narratives, the pre-banking that you mentioned. It isn't just about talking about the lies, because then you just repeat them. You have to do the work well in advance, and not just utilizing experts from the European Commission and the elected representatives in the European Parliament full of passion and ideas. A multitude of messengers is necessary to infuse a debate with the positive narratives, the constructive conversations that we need. Because sometimes people listen more to those closest to them, whether it's a relative or a co-worker or an influencer on Instagram. They want to hear the message from a variety of sources. And again, civil society can be a partner in that effort, and we look forward to working with the institutions, and of course the media will have a huge role to play.
Thank you to all our guests today. You can follow more of this online on our social media channels as well. X does not mark the spot. Civil society still has a strong voice in Europe. The Commission says it's listening. Let's see what's delivered in this next mandate. And 5 years from now, we can test this again. I'm Brian Maguire.